So I think Auburn is going to be an interesting test for Georgia in this game. Why? Why is it a test? Well, in a way, they're similar to Alabama. They've got an athletic quarterback that can run. They've shown they can hit a couple deep shots. They've got solid receivers. Obviously, Cam Coleman kind of highlights that group. Another true freshman stud. And they've got good running backs. Jarquez Hunter has been a good running back in the SEC for a few years now. Dating back to 2021 is as deep as I can remember. I don't know if he's been around longer than that, but it's going to be a similar test in terms of the defense against Alabama. So, to me, this is a way that Georgia can kind of right a wrong from the other day. Now, Georgia can show, yes, we just played the best running quarterback in college football. Make no mistake about it. Make no mistake about it. Jalen Milroe is the best running quarterback in college football. There's some exciting ones out there. I know Cam Ward's can be exciting. I know Avery Johnson can be exciting. There are some faster ones than Jalen Milroe, but in terms of the whole package, it's Milroe. And you put him on a team like Alabama, it's tough to stop. Well, Auburn's not going to be as difficult to stop as Alabama is, but this is still going to be a good test. We saw a year ago the problems that Peyton Thorne gave Georgia in the early going in that game. How they didn't do a great job of defending the quarterback run. He ended up scampering for a 60-yard play. And, they kept themselves in the game until the very end against the Dogs. Well, this time it's going to be in Athens, so things are going to be a little bit different. It should be easier for Georgia. It should be easier. Auburn has already lost to Cal at home. Auburn has lost to Oklahoma at home. This is not looking like a good Auburn team, and Hugh Freeze is already on the hot seat, and it hasn't been that long, right? So if you're Georgia, you've got last week that happened against Alabama, and it was a bad defensive showing in the early going. To me, this Auburn team, its makeup is a little bit similar. So now it's another chance for Georgia to play a team like that, and another practice run, in my opinion, of being able to beat an offense that does have dynamic elements to it. Now, when I sit here and I look at Auburn's offense, obviously they obliterated Alabama A&M, put up 73 on them, won by 70 points. Peyton Thorne threw for 300 yards. But then the rest of the way, it hasn't been a great offense. The New Mexico game is the only other game that they've done well in. 14 points against Arkansas, 21 points against Oklahoma, 14 points against California. It just hasn't been good. But they do have some playmakers, and Georgia can't just sleepwalk on them, right? Something that we've seen Georgia in some of these games in recent years is that they'll play down to the top competition. Well, it's time for that to go away. Kirby talked about stopping RPOs and all that. I want to read to you what he had to say, talk about that for a second, and some of the other things about this game that were kind of interesting to me, just kind of the magnitude of these rivalry games. Because I'm sitting here and I'm talking to you guys on riding home, and I'm saying, hey, I think that Georgia's going to blow out some of these teams. Hey, I think that Georgia's going to just embarrass some of these schools, and I think that that's going to happen with Auburn. But there is an element to that where you shouldn't. So let's dive into this Auburn game a little bit more. Ryan Curley from Dawg Post talking about RPOs, talking about how Georgia's going to stop them, and talking about just this rivalry in general. The newsletter. I'm thanking all of those who have already signed up. Thank you for signing up for a newsletter. We're putting out a lot of content on dogpost.com, and you want to make sure that you are subscribed to the newsletter, right? It's free to be a member of our newsletter. All you got to do is give us your email address in the link that I've got in the description of this video. But what is not free is being a Dawg Post subscriber, but if you go check it out, we've still got $1 deal, kind of a test run on if you want a long-term relationship with us as your content deliverers, content mailmen, right? Something like that. Just check it out. Make sure you're checking it out. All right, Kirby. Talking about Auburn's running back room in the RPOs. The fact that they've got those kind of dangerous backs is part of it. It makes you stop the run, right? If you could sit back and play less people in the box and cover all the RPOs, you play a lower level team, a team you pay. That sentence actually made no sense to me out of Kirby. I'm going to read that back for you guys. The fact that they've got those kind of dangerous backs is part of it. It makes you stop the run, right? If you could sit back and play less people in the box and cover all the RPOs, you play a lower level team, a team you play. So I guess he's just talking about how with the RPOs, you've got to be careful. You can't just drop back a bunch of players. unless you're playing a team that's just way worse than you. You come in here and they run RPOs. You're like, oh, okay, I can put one less in the box and I can cover these guys and dare you to run it. Well, you can't do that with them. You've got to fill the box up. You've got to go stop the run. And that's why he does what he does. It puts you in conflict. It's a guaranteed one-on-one matchup that you better have people that can cover people. Because if you don't, then they'll expose you. And he's talking about Jarquez Hunter here. He's talking about Peyton Thorne here and the Auburn backfield. And look, it's what happened with Milroe last week. What happened? Georgia, they have assignments. Someone's assigned to the running back. Someone's assigned to the quarterback. Obviously, some people are just kind of playing with the flow of the snap and playing with, okay, if I can get to this point, then I'll stop this guy. Well, Georgia just straight up got beat in that matchup last week. They load the box a little bit, and Alabama is able to beat them downfield. They don't have Milroe covered, and here's the thing they did. They had Malachi Starks on him on some of these plays, and he still beat them. It's an example of just how it's so difficult to cover a team that has a quarterback that can run, that has good backs, that has a good enough offensive line, and has enough weapons to where you can be effective with these RPOs. And Kirby, as much as I don't think Auburn's going to have a ton of success against Georgia in this, he's always going to give the other team credit for it and always going to acknowledge the fact that they are a threat. It's just not going to happen. So what does he want out of his team defensively? Stops, right? They didn't get stops last week against Alabama early, and you want to get those stops early and build a defensive confidence. This is what he said about getting stops. Stops. That's what it looks like. They're hard stop guys. Everybody's going to say I'm crazy, but they're physical. They've got a good scheme, good plays, an experienced quarterback, talented wideouts, great backs, the tight ends. They've played forever. Those guys have been there playing football forever, so it's not like the moment's too big for them. Experience is value in our league, and they've got tremendous experience. What looks good is punts. That is what looks good. He wants them to stop the ball. Georgia didn't do a good job of stopping the ball early in that game last week. They've got to come out and just look better. Look, Georgia's going to win this game against Auburn. I'd be pretty shocked if Georgia lost. The big things to know here, does Georgia start faster, right? Because these slow starts, they've got to end here soon, man. I mean, Georgia's just going to keep on struggling if they continue to not score early in the game until they allow the other team to get some points. They were down against Kentucky. They were down against Alabama for almost the entire game. It's got to stop if you want things to get a little bit better. Moving on to the rivalry aspect of this, of why does that make it harder? Well, these games are emotional. Kirby knows it. He instills it in these guys. This game used to matter a little bit more. It just doesn't matter as much. Auburn just hasn't been as good in recent years. It's been since pretty much 2017 that Auburn has really challenged Georgia. Obviously, they challenged Georgia last year. That game was tough, and some of the games have been a little bit tough. But Georgia's been dominating this matchup. Georgia's just in a much better place than Auburn's at, and it shows. Travaris Robinson's former Auburn guy. Georgia's got former Auburn guys on the staff. And it shows with Kirby playing at Georgia, Travaris Robinson, Stacey Searles playing at Auburn. Obviously, Mike Bobo played at Georgia. Jarvis Jones played at Georgia. Jonas Jennings, right? There's a rivalry on the coaching staff, and it shows those SEC roots. It just means kind of more. And so, as I tell you, I think that Georgia's going to blow out Auburn. This could be a game for a little bit, or maybe this is a little bit of a game in the second half. I just kind of don't think so. But if Georgia just plays better, man, if Georgia plays the way it played last week, it's still going to win the football game against an Auburn team that's just not very good. But if it plays like it did against Clemson or Tennessee Tech, Georgia's going to blow out Auburn. That's the difference there. There's an exponential difference. They played like crap in the first half against Bama and partially in the second half. And they almost beat Alabama on the road. So take from that statement what you will, because I know there's a little bit of truth to that. Thanks for watching.